everybody, it's Cassie and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my December wrap-up and my January TBR. These are the books I am going to be reading in January. These represent the books that I read in December. A lot of the books I do not have, but one currently with me. I lent one to my mom, and then the rest were ebooks and audiobooks. I did read 6 books in December, so yay me. I got to a total of 58 books total in 2017, so I'm so proud of that. We'll get that later in my stats video. So let's get into my December wrap-up. The first book that I'm going to show you is the one that I currently have with me, and that is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I borrowed this book from a friend's mom, and I wanted to thank her for it if she is watching this video. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Some parts were kind of slow, but it ended up being really good. From what I know about anxiety and OCD, I think this was a very good representation of it. If you do want to read this book, though, it has a huge trigger warning. I really want to warn you about that. It really goes into detail of what she is going through in her head, the way she spirals through her thoughts. And if you know somebody who's wanting to read this book and has anxiety and OCD, to warn them about this, because I don't want anybody to, you know, get into what she's got into, the spiral, the getting out of control. But I do love this book. 4 out of 5 stars. I do recommend it, but trigger warning. One book I listened to was The 1000th Floor by Katherine McGee. I gave it 4 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. I thought the audiobook was very, very good. I was sucked in. It took me, well, it really took me maybe a little bit to get into it, because I tried reading the physical book and I couldn't get into it. But then I was like, well, I found it on audiobook, so I listened to it, and it was a soap opera. That's all I could think about. Drama, drama, drama. In this one huge tower between so many teenagers, and I apparently am a sucker for it because I could not stop listening to it. The audiobook was very, very good, and I do recommend trying to listen to it if you could not get into the physical copy of the book like I couldn't. But I would like to pick up the next book in the series to see if I can get into it. The next book is The Time Fetch by Amy Herrick, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It is a middle grade book, kind of based on, I thought it was based on time and space, like time traveling, to the past, to the future, you know, all that kind of stuff like Doctor Who, but it wasn't. It was more about time and what would happen if it was taken from us. And I thought that was pretty good part of it, because, you know, you do one thing and it changes another thing, and I thought that was pretty good. And I liked it. 3 out of 5 stars. The next 2 books I read were ebooks, and they are part of a series. The first one is Every Heart a Doorway, and then the second one is Down Among the Sticks and Bones. Both of those are by Shannon McGuire. I gave the first book 4.5 stars, and I gave the second book 4 stars. I loved those books. I recommend those books if you have not read them. They are neat fairy tale retellings. Basically fairy tale retellings. It's about kids who went down basically the rabbit hole, like Alice did in Alice in Wonderland. And they come back, and then they have to deal with life back in their normal world, and they have a hard time struggling for it, so they get sent to this special school where they get to help with dealing with it. I do recommend the series if you like fairy tales, fairy tale retellings, Alice in Wonderland. I can't wait to get the 3rd book on ebook or buy the whole set of books. I loved the first 2. Can't wait to get my hands on the 3rd and see what it's about. Oh, and the title for Down Among the Sticks and Bones kind of threw me off, because when I read the first book and each child was described from a different world that they were sent to and their personalities, and the title of Down Among the Sticks and Bones made me think of a different character than in the book than it actually followed. So, I mean, I don't know if I should say who it follows, if it's a spoiler, but you just need to read it and find out. Sorry guys, I actually read 7 books in December. I did not write down the last book I read, which is an awesome surprise for me, which means a total of 59 books, close to 60. But anyways, I'm just so happy. The last 2 books that I read, the one that I forgot to write down, the last 2 is The School for Good and Evil and The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princes. And these 2 books are so fun to read. I love the magic. I love the witches and the princesses and the princes and the good and evil, and the way it's told. It's fun, it's funny, it gets you thinking. It really shows how a person can be evil and how a person can be good based on your personality. And I mean, the funny thing is, I dreamt about the first book right after I got done reading it. I was dreaming that I was one character because I did not want to be evil. And then I was dreaming, I woke up and then I fell back asleep and I dreamt that I was the other character trying to save the one from being evil. And it really gets you thinking, because you can do these certain things and you think you're doing good, but it's really not. And you can, I don't know, it's just, this series is very, very good. Like I said, I'm on the 3rd one. I tried finishing it in December, but I couldn't. It's like over 600 pages according to the ebook. But these 2 books, I was sucked in for the first chapters. They are so, so good. I highly, highly recommend them. I gave them both 5 stars. That was my feelings right after I read the series. So maybe after time I might change it. But as of right now, 5 stars for both of those books. I absolutely loved them. I highly recommend. I recommend all the books that I read this month. Either audiobook, ebook, or physical book. So if you liked any of the books that I talked about today, please go check them out, read them. If you have read them, let me know down in the comments your thoughts of the books. I highly recommend The School for Good and Evil, Turtles All the Way Down, The 1000th Floor, and the Every Heart a Doorway series. December was just a great reading month for me, especially after being in a slump for several months. We were all sick in September and October, and my reading has just plummeted. And then December came, and then I picked it all up, and I'm just like, yes. So let me know how many books you read in December down in the comments. Now that I got my December wrap-up out of the way, I'm going to talk about the books I'm going to read in January. I'm so excited for these. I have 4 physical books here. As you can tell, I got a new bookshelf. These books are all the books on my TBR. I made it a rainbow bookshelf. And my son actually helped me pick out one of my books, and he liked it because he said it's the prettiest one, and I think you will all agree with me. What I'm currently reading is The School for Good and Evil, The Last Ever After. There's the cover for it. I think all of the covers for The School for Good and Evil are absolutely beautiful and colorful. Go read it. The next book that I want to read is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. My grandma read it. I've heard so many other people read it, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. Let's see how many pages. In this book, there are 552 pages. I am nervous about going into this book because of all the hype. And sorry if you hear my kids, they're in there playing Play-Doh, but I'm very nervous to go into this book because of all the hype. I've heard it's so, so amazing. I've had this book for several months now, and I've just been so nervous to pick it up. And I don't want to hate it. But I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it this month. Finally. The next book I'm iffy about too, and that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. It has been on several of my TBR lists, but I never end up picking it up. I hear this book is okay. I hear the rest of the series is meh. And I have been so iffy to pick this up because I don't know. I don't want it to disappoint. And that's a lot of what I've heard about this series. And I don't want that. I want to start this year off with a bang. So please let this book be up to my expectations. The next book I'm going to read, I absolutely love this cover. It is so cool. I showed it in my December book haul. And it is Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. I love the cover. It is beautiful. Instead of taking place in Neverland, like the whole island and everything, the ship that it takes place on is called Neverland. But I love the back of it. The authors, one is wearing a eye patch and the other is wearing a mustache. And the last book I have to show you for my January TBR is the one my son picked out. And like I told you, he picked it out because he said it was beautiful. And that is The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. It is a collection of short fairy tales. I flipped through it and the illustrations are absolutely beautiful. My son thinks this book is beautiful. There is the inside of it. And there's the back. So here are all the books that I'm going to be reading for January plus the ebook. Please let me know what your reading goal for this month is, what you will be reading, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Thank you so much for watching. Happy 2018. I hope the year is amazing for you, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.